Okay. Gerald Celente is my... Now, Gerald Celente is one of today's pioneers in trends strategy. He founded the Trends Research Institute and its Trends Journal back 30 years ago. And he deals with about 300 different fields from business, finance, politics, environment, health, technology. And what's interesting about Gerald, unlike the talking heads, unlike the journalists of the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, who got it all wrong. Remember, they got it wrong about the economy collapsing. They got it wrong about green shoots and rebounding and out of the recession. They get everything wrong. Gerald's got it right. In fact, just as a matter of record, 16 months before the 2008 collapse, Gerald and I had a 1-hour discussion that's in the archives, very comprehensive and detailed, talking about 5 bubbles. The real estate subprime bubble, the commercial real estate bubble, the hedge fund bubble, the equity partnership bubble, and the credit card bubble. What would happen? We had it right about the euro. We had it right about China. So because a man's been right so consistently, we invited him back to share his thoughts today. Nice to have you back with us today, Gerald.
Oh, thanks for having me, Gary.
Gerald, I'm going to ask you several questions. Please take your time, and wherever possible, share with us whether it's your opinion or research that gives you your idea of where we're going, all right?
Okay.
First, it is my opinion that Ireland, Portugal, Spain, that are now in economic freefall, they're bankrupt, and they're going to get a bailout. Well, Spain, Greek did, but that won't last. Portugal hasn't, but will. Ireland just got the bailout. Spain will need a bailout, but it's going to need a gigantic $1 trillion bailout. Behind that will be France and the United Kingdom, and that's only the major Eastern European and Northern European Union countries. I believe that these countries should say no bailout, go through structured default, go back to their own currencies. If they continue doing what they're doing, they're going to cut social services. You're going to see total economic crisis. The banks are going to be made whole because that's who gets the money. The people that caused the problem, who were deceptive, are going to get paid out. The people who were victims are going to get completely creamed. And I believe that everything that we're hearing about in the American media and the American economists, bail these banks out. Save the banks to save the people. I think that's wrong-headed. Those are my personal opinions. They're only personal. I'd like yours. What you see should happen, will happen, and the outcome to these people living in Ireland, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and England.
Well, we had said when the euro first came on in 1999 that it would be a temporary currency. And it came about with the excitement about globalization. Those of us old enough to remember the days when all of Eastern Europe was locked behind the Iron Curtain. There was no trade. China was third world. Nobody had anything to do with China. So with the beginning of the 90s and the opening of globalization, there was a euphoria of a united currency. We said it wouldn't work, that it would only work in good times, and when times turned bad, the countries that couldn't keep up with the agreements would fall by the wayside. And they have, but they changed the rules. They changed the Maastricht Agreement. They changed the Lisbon Treaty by allowing these bailouts that they pledged would never happen. And what's going on in Ireland and what's going on in Portugal, Spain, Greece, people should be very aware. You know that saying I say all the time, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And I heard the people that are following you, very young, a whole new core of people that are tuning in. This is where the revolution is going to happen. Current events form future trends. Tuesday, the streets were packed in England, even with the snowstorms. In Italy, they're happening worldwide. In Ireland, all across Europe, the young people in France protesting the increase in the retirement age. The young people took to the streets. Here's the story. You have unemployment rates in Spain, young people, at near 50%, people between the ages of 18 and 26. And that's the same scenario all across Europe. It's happening. So figure it out. Here you are, a young guy. This education you have a degree in worthlessness. You could get a job in nothing. You're at home, you're frustrated, and you know the deal. What you mentioned about these bailouts, save the banks to save the people, they're hip to the deal. I mean, this is the greatest bank robbery in world history, and the banks are doing the robbing. They can't take any losses. The white shoe boys never like to lose a dime. So here's what it is, and it's worldwide. You go to work, get up early in the morning, get the kids off to school. If there's one of them sick, deal with it. Go to work at a job you hate, but you're doing it because of benefits and a measly salary, but you have to keep your head above water. And then work late. Oh, that lousy commute that you hate so much, and the boss and the coworkers or the nasty people around you that you have to deal with, suck it up. And then give me your money. That's what the government tells you. You give me your money because I know what to do with it. I have to give it to my friends. One of the greatest, God bless WikiLeaks. God bless WikiLeaks for exposing what a bunch of buffoons, losers, lightweights, suck-ups, and bow-downs that they call the world leaders. Oh, I'm not saying that. Those are in the cables. The world stage, you hear what they said about Berlusconi. You hear what they said about Sarkozy and Merkel, about Kirchner down in Argentina, one after another. As I've said all along, Gary, these are the same people you couldn't stand in high school and college that wanted to become the class presidents and head of the student council. And now they're saying the exact words what jerks all these people are. But they're telling us what to do. They're stealing our money. God bless WikiLeaks. They've showed that the world stage is the emperors have no clothes. It's one big Berlusconi. That's all it is. It's a show. And the show is this. These arrogant politicians are stealing your money, and they're giving it to their friends to do criminal deeds. We see the numbers. We see the data. It's there in WikiLeaks. They're bombing Yemen with our money, killing people that we don't know that didn't do anything to us, but they suspect it. They're giving money to criminals in Afghanistan, criminals in Iraq, criminals worldwide. What's going on, the banking problem is only a symptom of a much greater problem. The banks are robbing the people across the globe. We wrote this back when TARP began in 2008. The headline of the trend alert was D.C. heist. Wall Street hijacks Washington. Hey, did you see who got a job with Citigroup that they're talking about? One of those Obama rats that jumped ship. What was his name? Erzag. Yeah, that was it. The head of the Office of Management and Budget. Oh, yeah. Citigroup. $45 billion of your money. Get out there and go to work. Go pay your taxes. They need your money. They have to listen to that guy. I love it. I did an interview yesterday in a German newspaper, and I said to them, if I was living in Germany and I said that raising taxes in the United States so hedge funds and private equity groups would have to pay more, and increasing the tax rates for the multi-billionaires, and I said, quote, it's the equivalent of Hitler invading Poland in 1938, I would be arrested for being a Holocaust denier or something like that. But Steven Schwarzman, the CEO of Blackstone, he said that. That's how sick the system is.
Okay, let me go to another issue. I've got 5 issues I want to cover. So you've made your point there. Next point. Right now, the Federal Reserve is given a minimum of $600 billion to stimulate the banks, why should we believe that this money that they're giving at zero interest, with no terms that are transparent, and the banks can do what they want with that, or buying up bonds, treasury notes, why should we believe that that will help us in any way, since the interest rate is already zero? And if they want to keep inflation down, the one thing we don't have on money is inflation, though we have inflation in food prices have gone up, car prices have gone up, utility bills have gone up, gasoline has gone up, building materials have gone up, but the cost of money is not. So why do they think that we would accept that this is going to work and do anything more than increase the national debt, and still it's not going to end up employing another person? Your thoughts?
The reason they're doing this for a number of reasons. One reason is that if you're a person that doesn't want to take risk and you want to put your money in the bank and just get a nominal interest rate so that you stay ahead of inflation, because they have interest rates near zero, you can't do that anymore. So what do? You have to take risk. So they're egging people to get into the equity markets. That's one of the reasons. The other reason that they're giving for the devaluation of the dollar, and that's what it is. People must have attention deficit disorder if they don't know about this one. We're complaining that China is keeping its RMB low artificially so they could increase their exports. Well, the United States is trying to pull the same game by keeping the dollar low, by devaluing it, by printing another $600 billion of digital money not worth the paper it's not printed on. By keeping the dollar low, then they believe we could increase our exports. So we have to help those multinationals. And when I say multinationals, I really want to make this clear. Go back to Ireland for a second. The corporate tax rate in Ireland is 12.5%. That slimy Cowan over there, the prime minister, and the rest of them, they just lowered the minimum wage. The people at the bottom were getting too much, so the corporate guys could get a break. 95% of the exports coming out of China, out of Ireland, are from multinationals. You have the Googles and the Dells and the Microsofts all whining and crying that if the tax rate goes up, then they can't make enough profits. And by the way, corporate profits in the United States hit a 60-year high. And the reason is because they're paying everybody less and they're cutting costs. So when we're looking at what's going on with QE2, what they're doing is they're devaluing the dollar. That's why gold, as we speak, is trading at $1,391. That's why oil prices are going up. That's why food prices are going up. Not so much with supply and demand, but a devaluation of the currency because these commodities are based on dollars.
But also it's speculation.
And speculation.
Now, here's a separate question. I'd like a short answer. Why couldn't we just do the following? Ban trading in commodities essential to life: water, oil, gas, and food. Ban trading in currencies which adversely affect the people who have money in those currencies, like George Soros plays currencies and caused an enormous amount of human suffering in Russia, in Mexico, and in East Timor in the Middle East, or in the South Pacific. And why couldn't we just do that and then ban trading in all derivatives and credit default swaps to at least stop the type of reckless capitalism that we now see?
Because the Wall Street gang, the global Wall Street gang, is running the world. How do you tell an addict to stop? How do you tell a money junkie they've had enough? And it's policy. That's all it is. Wall Street is running Washington. The greedy pigs are in control, and they'll make money any way they can, and that's their gambling high.
Okay, well, I gave you a solution. You told me the answer why we won't have the solution. I just needed to hear you say that. Now, The next area is let's say you're an average person. You're working. You may be a professional, lawyer, accountant. I see unemployment across the board in all these areas. You may have a college degree. You may have worked for 20 years. But today you are challenged. You cannot afford your mortgage. You cannot afford a standard of living. You're underwater. You've got a lot of credit card debt. And everything you're doing is just paying interest. You're not even paying down the principal. And you can pay interest indefinitely at 2,000 or 3,000% cumulative interest over a period of time, especially on debit cards. Now, what do you see happening for these? Because if you add up all the unemployed, underemployed, working middle class, and middle class who are at, above, or below the poverty level, you have 235 million Americans who are adversely affected. What is likely to become of them over the next 1 to 5 years?
The quality of life, the standard of living will continue to decline until drastic measures are taken to reverse the course. And the biggest one is right now that could really start changing things is to end these wars, close the bases, and repatriate the $1 trillion that's going to defense and defense-related spending. The money has to go back into rebuilding America from the infrastructure up and from government down. As things are going now, it's just going to become continually worse for them. The numbers are there. We're seeing it, as I mentioned, when you look at corporate profits and see how the corporate profits are going up. They're taking it out of the pockets of the everyday person. So it's going to be a terrible, terrible future for a lot of people. And we're going into an economic winter, the likes of which we've never seen before.
Gerald, to put this in perspective, last week we talked about the largest single profits in American business history. And over $1 trillion. I think it was $1.3 billion. At the same time, while they were showing that this is why Wall Street prices should be at about 14,000 instead of right at around 11,000, and now they're all talking this morning about how it's going to bump up to those higher amounts. As you said, that's because corporations are lowering the wages, reducing benefits, and cutting inventory to the bone, or exporting a lot of this to other countries where they can get the labor a lot cheaper. All told, my analysis, which is a part of what I'm doing for this film, Poverty, Inc., shows that in the last 30 years, we've lost about 29 million American jobs. Not that they're all unemployed, but they had to seek other work because the jobs they had were downsized, so that those the hedge fund people and the equity partnerships could buy and download them. Now I'm saying that we don't talk at all in the media at all about what it means to be a person who is suffering. So they've been left out of the equation. We just keep looking at the happy side of the picture, not the sad side. I want you, in the time we have remaining, to give us your projection, your understanding of what it might be like to be an average middle-class person living in the suburbs, living in the rural area, and living in the urban area over the next 5 years.
Look for large increases of crime, number one, and particularly in not only in the urban areas, but in those outpost places where you're going to start seeing gangs actually taking over small towns. It's going to happen. Where we're looking at declines in police forces are going to continue. And by the way, what happened with the police, just as a side note, is these have become the enforcers for the crime bosses. The police are impotent against fighting the real low-life crime gangs. They can't do anything to stop them. They're flourishing. That's one of the big growth industries. And they have the orders for the hands-off at the top criminals. You never see any of these clowns doing time. They get a slap on the wrist and a fine, and then they're, oh, you can't do business in the securities business for the next 2 years. So the cops are going to keep breaking down the little people, us, more and more and more. Speeding tickets, whatever it might be, to keep revenues going. So we're turning into a fascist state. Not only I've been all over the media recently talking about the TSA issue, as you may know, and that's just an example. You see, first what they do, Gary, is they take our money from us, and it's just as the TSA and the humiliation that people are going through if they don't go through the scanners, the X-ray machines, it's another means of subjugation. So what people should realize, whether wherever they're living, is that the government is going to crack down on them more and more. To get taxes, they're going to sales tax Gestapo is going to break every small business. The people are going to, when I mention about what's going on with the young people revolting, that's going to happen in the U.S. too. Because you take it again, these are young people's testosterone roaring and no future ahead, and they know the score, they're being robbed. So you're going to start seeing a revolution happen. But in the United States, the crackdown is going to be much harder than most other countries. As you may well know, that what's the name of that place in Georgia where they train Latin
School of the Americas.
Excuse me?
School of the Americas.
And do you know what happened there last week?
Yeah.
What, they arrested all the protesters?
All of them, yes.
This is America?
Yeah.
Yeah. Heil Hitler.
Yeah, it's happening. I see our constitutional rights. What do you see as far as, and this is, again, a hypothetical situation. I'm interested in your opinion. We have nothing to base it upon except opinion. But what do you see the government doing to those who choose to engage in demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations, nonviolent demonstrations, and to join different organizations, whether it's an environmental organization or a human rights organization or a health organization or any other organization that opposes corporate policies or government policies?
Well, you're seeing it again. You saw it with WikiLeaks in the sense of, look at the government, how they're spying on their friends, the so-called diplomats. They're spying on us. Every keystroke that we make, they're following us. Just like we talked about with the School of the Americas. It was a peaceful demonstration. They even arrested the reporters from Russia TV. Could you imagine if it happened the other way around? And Americans were in Russia, and they were arrested and thrown in buses and thrown in jail 30 some odd hours without being charged for anything? So no, it's happening right in front of our eyes. Again, what's going on with the humiliation at the airports, it's a subjugation of society.
Well, I have to fly because of all the research and filming I do, but I am now in the process of looking for a recreational vehicle, an inexpensive one, that I can then drive. As a matter of protest, I would never go through one of the scanners because I know that there's scientific evidence that it is harmful to the body and the skin. I dealt with that yesterday. From Stanford University, they had this. And also, I do not believe that a person should have the right to physically touch any part of your body and then get away with it. If anyone did that and who was not a government employee, they would be arrested for sexual misconduct. And so I believe that once the American public allows itself to accept one more indignation, then we have shown that we are incapable of responding. We have no protests in America against hunger, and yet 17 million children go to bed hungry. Poverty. We have 2/3 of the American population who are at, above, or below the poverty level as we speak, and it's going to get worse. Unemployment. There's no mass protest by any unions or by people on behalf of those who are seeking some form of gainful employment. There's no protests in America about all the 5 million homes that have been foreclosed. That's 20 million Americans, and the next 6 million homes that will be foreclosed in the next 2 years. There's no massive demonstrations or protests by the 17 million actively unemployed and another 20 million who are non-gainfully employed. There's no protest against the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, or Yemen, or any place else. So we have no protests. The only protests we've had have been small protests. And so what does it say about us, the American people, and our resolve to challenge where we're going?
We're beaten back. And look at the health of the nation. You wake up and you have some Pop-Tarts for breakfast, washed down with a can of Coke, a triple baconator for lunch, with a big gulp, and then you pull yourself up to the all-you-can-eat buffet Look at this nation, and then you're drugged out. Prozac, Lipitor, you name it, you're on it. So how could a country like that, with so many people so unhealthy, have any resolve to fight? So they're beaten back in many ways.
Well, it's only the youth who are going to fight back. The middle class will not fight back.
They won't, but we call it the 20% solution. And we believe that there are 20% from all the generations put together that could form a positive movement. But the biggest one that has to change are the liberals and the so-called progressives. The conservatives believe and the liberals lie. The conservatives believe they're righteous. They believe, let's bomb those Iranians and we'll destroy them, we'll nuke them. They actually believe that stupidity. The liberals, on the other hand, they see one lie coming in front of their face after another, and they make excuses for it. The sanctimonious liberals. How many of them supported that 501 that you talked about? That are going to put the small farmer out of business.
All of them who voted. Gerald, let us do this. We're running out of time. I only have 15 seconds. Come back so we can continue our conversation with part 2. Who's going to push back against the tyranny and fascism that is becoming America today? Are you on for that?
How long?
Let's say a full hour.
I love to, but I can't. I have other obligations.
Within the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I'd love that. Sure.
Okay, you will.
Oh, I thought you meant right away. Okay.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Gerald Celente coming back for a full hour on who will stand up for freedom and who is a part of the problem. Gerald Celente is my guest. I'm Gary Null. I want to thank you all for listening. Gerald's website is trendsjournal.com, trendsresearch.com, either one. Have a nice day, everyone, and stay tuned for our next program.